Right, it's just gone 7 o'clock, so can I call this meeting to order? Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet. My name is Councillor Shantanu Rajwat. I'm the leader of the Council and chair of this meeting. Can I welcome those in the audience this evening, as well as those at home as well? We've got a very packed agenda, lots of things on here, so I hope those in the audience and watching at home get something useful out of this evening's meeting. I'm surrounded on the table by Cabinet colleagues who will introduce themselves when they speak, as well as officers who may well be called on should the need arise. We've also got the Leader of the Opposition who's invited to Cabinet but doesn't have a voting place on the Cabinet. So welcome to you, Councillor Thompson. We'll go straight into the agenda. I've not had any apologies for absence. Everyone is here. Are there any declarations of interest from members, voting members this evening? No, I can't see any. Any communications to members? No, nothing. And can I ask members to note the monitoring officer's note on interests, which is on page 3 of your agendas as well. We then move on to agenda item 2, which is the minutes of the meeting held on 17th of January. That is page 7 onwards on your agenda. I'll take them page by page. If there are any inaccuracies or matters arising, please do raise them. Page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, and finally page 14. If there's nothing to be raised on those, are Cabinet happy for me to sign those minutes? Thank you very much. Good. We then move on to the first substantive item on the agenda. That is the budget 23-24. That is a report in my name as Leader of the Council and Cabinet Member for Strategy, Resources and Customer Services. This is found on page 15 of your agenda. And in moving it, I'd like to say a few words in introduction as well. So we all know we're seeing it this year, like previous years, has presented extraordinary challenges playing out in households across the borough. As well as here in the council. We face these challenges, as we always do, knowing that every challenge presents massive opportunities. The context is really important this year. CPI and RPI are running at a 40-year high. Inflation is forecast to cost us an extra 16 million in 23-24. We know that there are demand pressures in some of our areas, amounting to about 9 million. Last year. That's adult social care, children's social care, and children with special educational needs. New costs in delivering services and support to residents struggling with the cost of living crisis. Warm spaces and cost of living marketplaces, which I'll talk about in a second. High interest rates, which have an impact on the council's capital programme, especially acute in our house building programme. As well as that, what we've always talked about in past years over the last decade, a lack of clarity on funding from government on the transition to net zero, which is a key priority for us in this administration since we set the climate emergency, as well as the short-term local government settlement, making it harder to plan for future years, which could be just as tough as this year and the last decade. However, despite all of that, I think it's fair to say, and Cabinet colleagues will agree with me, that our ambition for Hounslow remains undiminished. And tonight, those watching here in the audience and at home will see yet more reports delivering on the ambitions that our residents gave us the mandate to deliver in an overwhelming number. I would say this in introducing the budget, that we're in a financially strong position, much better than other boroughs, due to sound financial management over several years. But, of course, we must continue to be financially responsible now to avoid those challenges in the future. We've looked at all options for closing the budget gap. Because of the size of the challenge, the council is taking the unusual step of having to draw significantly on its reserves and make savings through service reviews. as well as recommending a 4.99% increase in the council tax. Of course, 2% of that is ring-fenced for adult social care. Now, I know that this is a very difficult decision, and around the cabinet table, we haven't taken this decision lightly, especially considering the challenges we know residents are currently facing. But it would be irresponsible not to make these decisions and not to put up the council tax. Without increasing council tax, the council will have to consider cutting services. And we know that in current times, people are more dependent than ever on the council for help. We have, over the last 6 months, offered a comprehensive package of support to those who need it most, including the cost of living marketplace events, connecting residents to services which can help them, and an extensive network of warm spaces. And it's really sad that we've had to open warm spaces, but we've done that, developed both by the council and by trusted partners. So in closing and introducing the budget, we'll continue to deliver support to those who need it. We are also, in addition to our generous council tax support scheme, providing an extra £50 top-up to help those on low incomes. And with that, I move the budget report. Councillor Dunn, would you mind seconding?
I second and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dunn. It is now open to comments and questions. Councillor Shaheen, if you wouldn't put room to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Leader. Councillor Salman Shaheen, Councillor for Isleworth and Cabinet Member for Parking, Parks and Leisure. You know, I mean, I wasn't on the council back in 2010 when Cameron and Osborne were in occupying numbers 10 and 11 Downing Street and introducing their first wave of austerity. But I had many friends who were councillors in different parts of the country. I had many friends across all different sort of frontline services who were intensely worried about the austerity project and how damaging it was to the poorest and most vulnerable people in our society. And how damaging it was to the economy. And it's a testament to this council that it managed to navigate that without putting the burden on those with the weakest backs and protecting services that the most vulnerable residents in our borough needed. And, you know, that was a world away. That was a world away from Brexit hadn't happened then. The pandemic hadn't happened then. And even then, we're talking about sunlit uplands compared to the world before Liz Truss came and detonated a bomb under our economy. And it's a testament to this budget, I think, which is an excellent piece of work. And I think you should be commended for it, Leader, and also Clive for all his work on it as well. That not only have we balanced the budget through this document, but also we've protected so much of our manifesto, so much of the programme that we want to go forward. And we can talk about our house building programme. We can talk about our policies to protect vulnerable children and adults. In my own portfolio, of course, I'm immensely proud that we will continue to plant 20,000 trees across this administration, that will build a borough that's 45% green, and we'll plough another 5 million into our parks and green spaces for new master plans. And I think, and of course, as you mentioned, the climate ambitions that others will speak about, I'm sure. I think we have to recognise that there are tough decisions in here. There are painful decisions in here, none of which are taken lightly. But I do think we have to remember, in spite of all this, we still manage, we still will deliver on our manifesto.
Quite right, Councillor Sheen. Thank you very much. Councillor Ajmer Gariwal.
Councillor Ajmer Gariwal from Hounslow Central Ward, Cabinet Member for Safety. And I just wanted to say, yes, even with the cuts and everything, we care so much about our residents, and we try our utmost to keep the borough a safer place, which is one of our pledges. And, you know, the communities tell us that feeling safe in their homes, in the neighborhoods and streets and venues is top priority for them. And it's top priority for us as well. And we are trying to our best to keep it going, therefore continuing to show our commitment as a Safer Hounslow pledge and continue to deliver some incredible work to support this. And this includes that we've successfully delivered year one on our Safer Community Strategy 2021 to 2024. We've implemented a new area-based Safer Communities operational team on neighbourhoods closely with our residents, businesses and members. Recently, we've launched the borough's Violence Against Women and Girls plan. The leader has registered as the lead champion for our white ribbon work. Thank you for that. And we've piloted the borough's first public health prevention project focused on reducing violence. And we will carry on with this work to keep our residents safe. And in the budget, yes, we have to make cuts, but I do assure you that the council is working for you, and we will try to keep Hounslow a safer borough to live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gariwal. Councillor Lily Bath.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Lily Bath, Cabinet Member for Children, Education and Learning, and I represent the Bedfont Ward. So I've actually been a councillor since 2010, and and I've been through this painful process each year, and it becomes more and more difficult. And I am actually amazed at how we've been able to not just balance the budget, but if you look at some of the reports that we've actually got here tonight, a couple of them are really looking at how we can save money in the long run. They're really quite innovative and around thinking very hard about community hubs, for example, which I know Councillor Gariwal will talk about. We've got a report on independent living. All of these initiatives are around trying to save costs and helping our communities at a very early stage, which I think is crucial. And not just because it helps us to save costs, but it's absolutely the right thing to do for our communities. So I know that my area that I cover is a high spend area, children's services, just like adults, and that has been incredibly difficult. We have seen an increase in the number of children with special educational needs. We're been overspending on our high needs. We get more and more children with complex needs, which means that some of our placements are quite costly. Some of you might remember a few months ago, I did actually bring a paper to Cabinet around working with other local authorities so that we can actually purchase cheaper placements for our young people. So there's a lot, it is very challenging and there are difficult decisions to make, but we will continue to be as ambitious as possible and look at ways of not just balancing our budgets, but also making sure that we really get good outcomes for our communities. So yeah, absolutely. And I actually do want to take this opportunity to thank Clive, who's been excellent actually over the years. And it's been a good, safe pair of hands, and really have appreciated his advice and his hard work in this area as always. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Anyone else to speak? Councillor Bruce.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I'm Councillor Bruce, lead member for Regeneration and Development. When we wrote our manifesto back in January, February last year, or final touches to the manifesto, and then we published our manifesto, and then we won on our manifesto. Little did we know the further difficulties that we would find ourselves in less than 6 months later in terms of the national economy, which filters down into our council finances. I know that the headline of this budget perhaps is going to be the 4.99 increase in council tax that people will focus on. And they're right to look at it, and they're right to say, well, why are you doing that? And what is it for? Are we delivering the right services? Are we delivering enough of services that people want? And there are always questions about that, and residents are quite right to do that. So while I know that will be the focus, it will be a shame if that was the only thing that was focused on, because this budget, while being tricky and while I agree with all the things that have been expressed already, I also want to say I think it's quite an exciting budget. It sets out our ambition. That's what we said in our manifesto back in May. That's what we won on, and that's what we're here going to deliver on. We are ambitious for Hounslow. We want the best for our residents. It's the reason we're here. I know we get questioned on the reasons we're here sometimes, but it's certainly the reason I am here. And I know my colleagues in the Labour Party are here for exactly the same reason, that we want the best for our residents. And this highlights that. A number of those things have been said already in my area, and I'm going to bring a report later about the regeneration of one of our estates. Much needed, much deserved for those residents, much anticipated and looked forward to. And we've identified, and through the business case that was agreed at Cabinet last month, and that is confirmed by this budget here, we will be ploughing in £650 million into our new build homes over the next 4 years, plus the money that we've already committed that will be coming from previous commitments that have made in the previous administrations. So there's lots to celebrate, and I know you highlighted that at the beginning, Councillor Rajawat, and I think that's important to counterbalance with the difficulties that we have and the difficulties that we know many of our residents are going through. I'm very, very excited about all of the things that we're going to be able to do, and looking back 3 years' time, being able to look back to this point and to say, yes, we had the budget correctly organised, we were able to spend our money wisely, and we delivered things for our residents, and that's what this budget demonstrates we will be doing.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you very much, Leader. There's been praise for Clive tonight in helping us over the years to maintain these balanced budgets and do the most with our money that we can. And I think we're going to hear much more of that as well. But I want to extend thanks to many more of our staff here at Hounslow as well. We have absolutely fantastic staff, and I'm in my own area, thinking particularly of the climate team, who have put together an incredibly ambitious programme based on our ambitious challenge to them to say that we want to do our part and reach net zero as a council by 2030, but also to help the wider borough to reduce its carbon emissions over a similar time frame. So they've been put together from scratch and come up with this incredibly ambitious programme. And they are brilliant at applying for funding and getting in the money that we need in order to be able to do some of these really ambitious things. So we've already retrofitted around 30 schools and around 30 corporate buildings in order to decarbonise our operations there. But there's so much more that we want to be able to do, and if we look at the whole borough, which comes within our scope, then our own buildings are but a small drop in the ocean, which is why we don't leave our ambitions there, and we do have ambitions for the whole borough, and we are looking creatively at how we can help to finance that. And I will be bringing a cabinet paper later in the year that looks at how we can do that, because we're not going to get £5.5 billion from the government, and we know that, and that's why we have to look creatively at that. Having said that, there are things the government could do to make our life easier and to help us deliver better for our residents, not just when it comes to mitigating for climate change and reaching net zero, but across our operations. They could stop us having to bid for funding against other local authorities that need that funding and need to implement such measures just as much as we do. They could help us out by giving us multi-year settlements rather than making us go through this rigmarole year after year after year after year, where we get a late settlement and then have to scrabble to put together a balanced budget at the end of the year. They could stop pretending that they're giving us more money by giving us the option to raise more money from our residents through council tax. And so whilst I'm really, really proud of what we have achieved, I think it's important for us to understand the context in which we're doing it in, and obviously Councillor Shaheen and Councillor Bath have already set out some of that context. You yourself, Leader, have spoken about how this has been one of the toughest budgets to put together, despite all those preceding years of austerity, because of the financial position we found ourselves in through it, because of the mismanagement of the economy by the government in this last few months. But I think we're going to have some even tougher decisions to make in the next couple of years. So we need to be proud of what we've done. We need to be grateful to our staff and to people who have helped us to do that. But we also need to be mindful that it's not over yet. You know, there is a long way to go. There is still a lot of work to be done. Our residents are still suffering the effects of this economy, and we will be needing to make those tough decisions around how we continue to balance our budget, how we continue to help the poorest and the most vulnerable people in our society, whilst still delivering on our very ambitious programme for Hounslow.
Yep, quite right, Councillor Dunn. Thank you very much. Can't see anyone else indicating. So in summing up, I will also add my thanks to Clive, Rupa, Rob and Toyin in the team, and everyone that's helped, as well as all the exec directors around the table and their teams, and cabinet colleagues, as well as the Labour group in putting this all together. The recommendations are that we, in the strongest terms, make a recommendation back to Borough Council. They're contained on page 15A to U. Quite a bit there. Can I see all of those in favour, please? That is unanimous and that is carried. That will now be recommended back to Borough Council next week. Thank you, everyone, colleagues. Right, we now move on to agenda item 4. Again, a very, very exciting report delivering on our corporate plan and our manifesto commitment to transform our community experience. This is the strategic business case. Can I ask Councillor Shivraj Grewal to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. I'm Councillor Shivraj Grewal from Heston Central Ward and Cabinet Member for Communities and Equalities. The Hounslow Corporate Plan agreed in September 2022 sets out the council priorities of the next 4 years. The corporate plan acknowledges that to achieve our goals, we need to do things in a different manner. And our vision is for the residents of Hounslow to have the very best experience with interacting with us or accessing any of our services. Initial work carried out through the Transforming Our Community Experience program to date has found that while there are areas of good performances, to date has found that the council's current services access arrangements are inconsistent and fragmented in places, often resulting in a poor resident experience. In addition, this work has also identified opportunities to deliver services more efficiently through digitization and improved operational arrangements. A revised service model has been developed to provide a transformed and quality experience that delivers information and advice about local services, help, and support. Residents will be able to access support that need in accordance with their needs, including appropriate support through digital communities and the service support offer. Requests for services will be delivered more efficiently through digital options and by staff in more fulfilling roles where they feel empowered and have the tools that they need. This report sets out proposals to deliver a program of work over the next 2 years that will deliver a joint-up approach to addressing residents and community needs through consistent arrangements, modernizing the way we interact and transact with everyone who has stake in borough residents, visitors, business, and partners. Details of recommendations of the report is approve the recommended option with strategic business cases in Appendix B, approve the allocation of 737K to be funded from the One Hounslow Fund, delegate authority to Assistant Chief Executive to take a delegate. This includes authorization to spend a further 738K to be funded from the One Hounslow Transformation Fund. If adopted, the key financial implications of the council is that an investment will be required to implement the model in the next 2 years. Current estimates indicate the program will deliver ongoing revenue savings of 3.2 per annum, and I recommend the cabinet that this report be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Grewal. I will formally second the report and reserve my right to speak. It is now open for discussion and debate. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. When you've been around a bit, sometimes you feel like you're in Groundhog Day and the same sorts of reports come back to us. And I can remember I've been checking in 14 years ago when we had what we then called an executive, we had a very similar report that made the point that we need to improve ways in which residents access the council. And also there was a tremendous cost saving. I was looking at the report there, it said that this is obviously 14 years ago, but every face-to-face meeting that people had cost then £8, whereas an email is next to nothing. So there was a real saving. Obviously, as you mentioned earlier, money is tight. Then, as now, when these sorts of reports come forward, there's always the real concern that people might get left behind. So again, 14 years ago, there was concern that a lot of people don't have access, even if they do have the internet. As I know from my sort of online teaching disasters during COVID, many families might have it, but it doesn't work and they can't afford it, and broadband's down and all sorts of things. So for people who have, problems accessing for all sorts of reasons, language, disability, and so on, we have to be really careful, as the report says, that we take care of their needs. So again, in 2009, when all this was happening, we were very keen to run it through what we then don't know still exist. There was a disability community forum. There were focus groups with different communities for whom English wasn't the first language. And I can see from here that at this moment in time, there's been no consultation. So it's really a request that as you begin to plan and develop the way forward, it is vitally important that actual people who are going to be using it, which is ultimately not us and council staff, it's the residents who want to access this authority, that they're involved in the process, and therefore you're going to get a better system that's better designed and meets their needs, which is not always necessarily the same as meeting the needs of the organisation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Anyone else on this? Anyone else? Councillor Bruce.
I think just to pick up and carry on from what Councillor Thompson was saying, I'm sure Councillor Carrywell broadly going to agree with that. I think that's absolutely the right approach and way to be going. We want to consult with people. We want to be with them and not doing to them. Yeah, absolutely. I think, though, we would be doing people a disservice if we didn't encourage this sort of behaviour and pushing is the wrong word, perhaps, but encouraging this sort of behaviour among people where people are able to, and perhaps reluctant to, but able to. We want this sort of behaviour because it's not just about their interactions with the council, it's about their interactions in everyday life. This is very much part of how everyone is living now. My, children that I teach at school are telling me things and showing me things constantly that I'm absolutely, amazed, shocked, both positively and negatively. I'm sure you are as well. But it is the way that we live now. It is the way that we have to be. It is the way that our interactions with all sorts of life have to be, and we have to move that forward. And so it is part of the way we need to be doing things as a council. It is part of the way that we want to encourage people to interact with us, but with other things in their lives as well, and to create that space where people really can't, and we know there really are people that can't do that, create that space, enough space for those people to be able to interact with the face-to-face people as well. And I think all of those things are very equally important, and I'm absolutely certain Councillor Garrywell will be dealing with that and picking that up and making sure that happens.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Anyone else on this? As I reserve my right, I just continuing on from Councillor Bruce. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Completely echo what you're saying. But this is also evidence of partnership working as well. We can't do all of this on our own, and there are many partners out there, both in the voluntary sector and statutory services, that we need to bring into this, and this kind of talks to that work as well. And I think for me, certainly, when I stood up on becoming leader and talked about some of this, and that we were going to develop this through the corporate plan, I think the lessons of the past, Councillor Thompson, we've learned. So putting in investment is one thing. It's making it last through whatever follows, so that actually it's not about who's in the administration of the council or who's the partner of the time. Actually, that behavior and that work continues on, and survives everything, and in fact supersedes everything that's come before it. And I think that's really, really important. And for me, thank you, Councillor Garrywell. this absolutely talks to that. And it's never a finished document. It's always live, and this will change and evolve over time as well. But I'm very clear that this absolutely must survive whatever has come before, and whatever challenges will be thrown in front of us in the future as well. So I think that's absolutely the right thing here. Councillor Grewal, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Chair. In a nutshell, I would like to say, and thank you very much for your comments, Peter. They will be noted, and I certainly will take those views and your experience from 14 years ago. That's the only way forward if we want to achieve our goals and our manifesto. And I thank everyone for supporting me in this, all the officers and the cabinet members and the staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Grewal. Okay, the recommendations on this report are on page 267, 1, 2, 3. Can I see everyone in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. That's carried. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to agenda item 5, the Independent Living Programme. Again, a key part of the corporate plan. Can I invite Councillor Samia Chowdhury to introduce this report?
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Samia Chowdhury, Cabinet Member for Adult Health Integration and Hounslow Heath Ward Councillor. Independent Living Programme. I believe this is an excellent programme of work, and we need to ensure vulnerable people receive a high level of customer services, advice and information to keep them as independent as possible. This is a crucial programme, but they will get all the support they need, all the help they need within this program. As a lead member, I'm really keen that this work delivers services that support people in their communities, and at the same time, we will be ensuring those residents who are not using our digital channels or digital services, they get all the support, all the help, and they are looked after. For example, if there is anyone who can't fill the forms out online, everyone will be looked after with this program. So with that, I'd like to propose this report, and the recommendations are on page 326, recommendation 1, 2 and 3. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Bath, would you like to second it?
Yeah, I'm happy to second the report, and just to say a few words as well, because my name is actually on the report. So this really goes back to a little bit about what I was saying earlier on about acting early and having a preventative approach to reducing costs later on. So obviously this model is absolutely sound, and at the moment it relates to adult social care activities, and there'll be projects here that will help to reduce the cost in adult social care. But this whole principle will be applied to children as well. And we will be discussing at some stage, actually later on, we've got a report on hubs, and I will mention something about children hubs at that time as well, but that will apply to children as well. So yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. I think it's a really good, absolutely right way forward, and I totally support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. It's been formally seconded. It's now open for debate and discussion. Councillor Lambert.
It just strikes me that this is a good example of how Hounslow Council does work. Instead of cutting everything to the bone, and not looking at how the future works out, this is risking a little bit of investment in something which will almost certainly bring a very positive outcome, both financially and in a way more importantly in the lives of the people who are helped by this. So it's what we do, and I'm very pleased that we're doing it.
Councillor Lambert, do you want to introduce yourself as well? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm always a bit slow on that. I'm Guy Lambert. I'm the leading member on the Cabinet Member for Environment, Highways and Operational Services.
And leading member as well. That's good. Anyone else on this report? I think it's a fantastic report. Completely echo what Councillor Lambert has said. Okay, can't see anyone else. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to sum up or? Yeah.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Bath and Councillor Lambert. Just wanted to quickly say on this note, thank you very much to Clive's team, but at the same time, thank you so much to all my team as well for all their inputs and all the hard work they have done for this report. Thank you.
Yeah, I absolutely echo that. Okay, the recommendations on this report are on page 326, as Councillor Chowdhury identified. 1, 2, and then 3 on 327. Can I see all those in favour, please? That is unanimous. That's carried. Thank you very much. We now move to agenda item 6. This is the implementation of a locality-based delivery approach and a network of community hubs. Hand back over to Councillor Shivraj Grewal.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce myself again. I'm Councillor Shivraj Grewal, lead member for Communities and Equalities. Implementing a local-based approach on community hubs. Residents need to be able to access the right services in the right location tailored to their needs. A report was published, a report was agreed by the Cabinet in February 2022, which agreed to development of locality approach. And also a manifesto commitment which said for people to be part of a community, they need to have a place in the community, making best use of council buildings across the borough to extend the opportunity to face engagement with council officers and councillors. And it also, in a manifesto, we said that we are a listening council. And the report now coming to the Cabinet sets out the locality-based approach, which puts residents' needs at the heart of how we deliver services. It will make better use of the councils and communities' existing buildings and resources, connecting people to services, support, and activities where they live. We will call these community hubs. They will initially start in the west of the borough, and which will be in Feltham, east and central areas of borough. And that is just the start. We will then roll out this approach to forward a community solutions team approach, working health and other partners. We will help residents access early help, guidance. Why we are doing this is to deliver better for local people. Ways work well. To develop this model, we will work alongside communities to empower residents to find solutions themselves to the issues and challenges they face. Residents will be able to access all kinds of support, which might include speaking to the relevant officers, seeking financial help, and so on. The report recommends, and the Cabinet is asked to agree the proposed approach to locality-based delivery and a network of community hubs. Agree the implementation of community hub Pathfinder in Feltham, including the Department of Education requirements of a family hub. Authorize officers to develop a business case for the implementation of community hubs across the borough. Approve the allocation of a budget of £250,000 to be funded from the One Hounslow Transformation Reserve to deliver the above recommendations. Delegate authority to this Assistant Chief Executive to take or delegate the operational steps required to implement this decision. So I request the Cabinet to approve this report.
Thank you, Councillor Grewal. I'll formally second it and reserve my right to speak. It is now open for discussion. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you so much, Councillor Grewal, for all the way through. But the important thing is listening to our residents, like you have said, we're listening council and working together with the residents and making them feel that we're all one. We'll be listening to them and they will be working together with officers, with yourself, with all their local councillors as well, and seeing, starting off with the west end of the borough. I think this is really, really good, where we have slightly felt previously that the west of the borough when we start something, it starts from Feltham. And I'm really pleased to see this, that be starting from the west end of the borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Lily Bath.
Thank you. So yeah, absolutely support this. I think we talked earlier on about making ourselves more accessible as a council, and I think it's the perfect way, really. We should be going out there in the community. We should be available to our residents, so they don't necessarily have to. We're making it easier for them to sort of be able to contact us, but we're also supporting them and hopefully making our communities more resilient. But I just wanted to mention that obviously this does tie in with the family hubs, which I will be overseeing in my area of responsibility. We as a council received money from the Department of Education to set up family hubs, and this will tie in very beautifully, I think, with the community hubs, so that we actually have a whole family and holistic approach. So just to mention that's something that we will be obviously designing and doing alongside with this as well. But yeah, no, absolutely right way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Councillor Dunn.
Thank you, Councillor Catherine Dunn, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Climate, Environment and Transport Strategy. So I'd like to commend Councillor Gurwal on bringing forward this report, and I think it goes very much hand in hand with your previous report. It's all about making sure that we are there and available for our residents wherever they are. So, and one side of that is the digital. So you don't have to go somewhere, you don't have to call someone, you're able to do transactions with the council from wherever you are. And the other side of that is us being there out in the community. So both of them, although they sound different, are part of the same thing, which means we're not expecting people to come to Hounslow House. We're not making them have to go to a particular place, but wanting to be out there in the community and online for our residents to be able to deal with us, to get help from the council, for us to be able to refer them to other organisations in the best way possible for their circumstances. So I commend the report.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Sheen.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Garrell, for bringing this excellent report forward to us. I think, there's often a danger with councils that, among some residents, their only interaction with the council will be the council collects their tax and they collect their bins. And I think that can be a perception when residents don't have many interactions with the council. So we've got to provide opportunities for residents to come to us where they are in their communities. And I think that's a key element of local democracy. And I think it's fundamental to us as a listening council. I'm tremendously excited by the proposals in this document. And I think it's the future. I really do.
Absolutely. Councillor Bruce.
Just to pick up on a point that excites me from my portfolio is about the assets we hold in this borough, because part of this approach is about maximising the use. Are we going to continue to extend I absolutely support all the other aims, and we got that one small mistake. Thank you.
There it is. For correction, paragraph 22.3, is it? Yep, perfect. Thank you. Anyone else on this? Councillor Ajmer-Garwal.
I just wanted to say thank you very much. Great report. And I was at a community hub just a few days ago in Isleworth with Councillor Sampson. And, it's a great feeling to be there, to see the parents interacting with partners and getting whatever they want out of the hub under one roof. But what I saw was the children were running around having their face painted, and they were really enjoying themselves, while the parents didn't have to worry about them, but they got the information they wanted. So I think it's great. Thank you.
So an action for all of cabinet. We're going to get a face painted while we get services. I did reserve my right, so I'll just very briefly, because Councillor Shivraj Gorawal touched on it on community solutions, and I echo everything that's been said by colleagues around the table. And I think my plea is to those watching online and in the audience here. Don't reach the point where you're struggling. Community solutions are out there. I'm really proud of the work that they're doing, and also the cost of living marketplaces. Please do use them. We are genuinely there to support you, signpost you, and help you through these difficult times. So please don't suffer in silence if you're a resident of this borough. We are really here to help as well. So, Councillor Sampson.
I would just, sorry, Councillor Sampson, Isworth Ward, lead member for housing. I would just like to come in on the end of what you just said there, leader, because what we've also got, we don't want people to struggle. We don't want people to leave everything to the last minute when, you know, they're reaching crisis point. The housing estates now have housing officers, tenancy sustainment officers, wardens, everybody situated on the estate. Any issues, you know, then you come. But that's what we're there for.
Absolutely right. Okay, I can't see anyone else indicating. Councillor Gorawal, would you like to sum up?
Thank you very much. It's a new administration, it's a new approach, and it's the beginning of a bright future. Thank you.
Right. The recommendations in this report are on page 358, 1 to 5. Can I see all those in favour, please? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. We now move to agenda item 7, the third-party spend programme. That's a report in my name. So just a few things on this. The third-party spend programme is a key programme in the delivery plan. I know everyone around the cabinet table has read the delivery plan in great detail. That sets out how we're going to deliver on our corporate plan. In essence, it's about making sure that the commissioning and procurement activity delivers both transformation, which will deliver efficiencies in the One Hounslow way, in a structured way, to make sure that every penny that we spend or commission is done so in a targeted way with clear outcomes and a clear understanding of what it's going to deliver for our residents. The scope of this programme is contained on page 375. I think it talks quite comprehensively through this report on that, and I formally move it for cabinet. Would you like to second?
I will second and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, it's open for discussion and debate. Anybody on this report? Any takers? Councillor Lambert.
It's good to see some energy being put in. Cost killer for Europe, for one of my employers, and yeah, you can make a lot of progress by just being careful and very carefully assessing where the money is being spent, rather than just accepting that we have to spend a lot on X, Y, and Z. So we've got an excellent team looking at it, so and I'm sure we'll make some good progress.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Completely agree with you. Anyone else? I can't see anyone else indicating. Okay, the recommendations on this report on page 374, number 1 and number 2. Can I see all those in favour? That's unanimously carried. Thank you very much. I think what this report really boils down to is our steadfast commitment to ensuring staff in the organisation receive fair pay for the hard work that they put in, and they really decade or more put in a lot of through some real serious challenges. To draw your attention to some news I'm really proud of, and I think we should continue. The median gender pay gap is now at 0%, and there's the mean has also decreased, which is great news. We're also undertaking a review of the pay and grading of chief officers, which we'll report soon. And furthermore, I think it's really important that we look at this report and see what else we can report within it. So I have tasked officers to look at the feasibility of meaningful reporting on in future iterations of this report on some other protected characteristics as well, because we know they exist, and we, through our work on equalities and diversities and inclusion, I think it's important to report on some of those characteristics as well. So with that, I formally move the report. That's done.
I second the report and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, it's open for debate. Anybody like to say anything on this report? Can't see anyone indicating. Yeah, Councillor Dunn.
In that case, just to briefly say congratulations on achieving that zero gender pay gap on the medium, and there are other measures, of course, and we mustn't rest on our laurels. But that is a significant achievement, and definitely agree with looking at other protected characteristics and in general, you know, what we can do to support our staff to achieve through their careers here, and to make sure that they are rewarded appropriately and in a way that celebrates their achievements.
Quite right. Okay, Councillor Sampson.
I would just like to reiterate what Councillor Dunn has just said. It's an absolute brilliant achievement, and we should have done it a long time ago. But we are where we are, and I'm, you know, and it's just forwards from now on, just absolute forwards.
Absolutely, thank you. Can't see anyone else indicating on this. So the recommendations are on page 398, 1 and 2. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to agenda item 9, the admission arrangements for the London Borough of Hounslow Community Schools for 24-25. Can I hand over to Councillor Lily Bath?
Adopt the admission arrangements for community schools for 24-25 as set out in the report. The reason that we are here tonight with this report is that we have a statutory duty every year to make sure that we publish our school admissions arrangements, which are based on the Pan London admission arrangements. So in terms of this year, there have been no significant changes at all. Apart from, I just want you to note on 3.5 that some schools are going to be seeing a reduction in their roll numbers, and the reason being is that some of the schools that you'll see on page 423 have actually operated reductions in school places for a number of years, and this does actually make it challenging for them to manage their budgets. Now, you probably will all know that across London, not across the rest of the country, but across London, there is actually decline in school places, school roll demand for school places, which sounds a bit odd because I remember way back when I was first a councillor, there was a shortage of school places, but there is a less of a demand. So hence I'm proposing that we reduce those numbers in the schools mentioned. This is obviously with agreement with the school. And I just want to stress that should the situation change and we, you know, fast forward a few years and we need those places, we are able to bring them back in again. So there's no closing of schools or buildings or anything like that. It's just a reduction in the numbers. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. I'll formally second it and reserve my right to speak. It's now open for discussion and debate. Anybody like to say anything on this report? No, I can't see anyone indicating. It's fairly straightforward. Thank you, Councillor Bath, for bringing it forward. The recommendations on this are on page 422. Can I see all those in favour? That is agreed unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, where are we next? We next move to agenda item 10, the regeneration of Carlton House and Albany House, and the approval to make compulsory purchase order and delivery plan. Councillor Tom Bruce, over to you.
Thank you very much. Yes, as I alluded to when I spoke on the budget earlier and the report I brought to Cabinet last time, along with Councillor Sampson, talking about the HRA and particularly my bit, the HRA business case for the regeneration across the house building across the borough. Part of that was the regeneration of Charlton House. This specifically asked council to approve, cabinet to approve the delivery programme that's outlined in points 1, 2, and 3, and also to agree the potential, and I reiterate, is in the future. We don't anticipate that to happen. Discussions with residents before we need to get there. Asset and ensure that the far more than was able to be in the business case, just about the scheme, the engagement we've gone through over the past few years, the agreement that was got and sought by those residents that are living there, and the program, the outline program, which I would like to look at the end date. And we're talking about December 2027 before we're finally completed and people will be moving in. The hope is that at that point people will be moving into a fully rejuvenated and regenerated council house build on that site. It is a long time in the future, but it's work that needs to start now and money that we need to put forward and aside now in order to assure that happens. So there's plenty of detail in the report that I'm really not going to go into. The main thing to say is the residents have been kept in the loop throughout. I know, and I'm happy to acknowledge where we have not done as well. Most recently, perhaps much better than maybe 6 months ago we were doing in terms of our engagement, but we've stepped that up again. And I know from talking to one or two of them there that they're much happier with where we are now in the agreements that we've been able to provide, or the assurance, I should say, that we've been able to provide about what is happening. Their needs are the most important here, making sure that they receive the quality of housing that they deserve, and that Brentford gets the quality of building and property that it deserves. And I think that's absolutely what this is about. And it comes back fundamentally to what this council is about and this administration is about, which is being ambitious for Hounslow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Sampson.
Exciting scheme. We've had a number of meetings with them. They're all very reassured, and their question is how quick can they move out? They just want to go back yesterday, so which is quite reassuring. So no, it's going to be, it's a brilliant scheme, brilliant design, and but they just.
Hey, Councillor Shaheen.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Bruce, for bringing this. Councillor Bruce for bringing this forward. I think just to bring this back full circle to the first item on our agenda, I do think it's important to recognise quite the gravity of what you're bringing forward today, because it was something that was devised in a completely different world, in a completely different economic moment. And the fact that we are maintaining our commitment to house building, maintaining our commitment to regenerating this estate in Brentford, is of vital importance, despite all the economic conditions that we face, and that we can go ahead with that we can, through this, put forward the money to do so. I think is a tremendous achievement, and I hope we can continue to do that, and we can continue to look at estate regeneration across Hounslow.
Thank you, Councillor Shaheen. Councillor Bath.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely excited about this, because I remember talking about this in the previous administration, and it was one of our priorities. I mean, when you do regenerate an estate like this, you provide brand new housing for residents and tenants, and that's absolutely incredible, really, if you think about it, given the fact that some of our estates do need to be regenerated. And this is, I know it's challenging, but this is something that will be, this will be such a huge outcome for some of those residents, because not only do they get a brand new place to live in, but this gives us opportunity to think about our carbon footprint as well, and making sure that we're designing homes, building homes that are fit for present living. So I absolutely support this. I really hope that we can apply this to some of our other areas as well. I know it's going to be a challenge, but I think it's absolutely the way forward. Yeah, and well done for bringing it. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bath. I've got Councillor Dunn next.
Thank you. So yes, like Councillor Bath, I remember we have been talking about this for a while, and from my perspective, this was an estate that was in my ward. It's no longer in my ward due to the boundary changes, now in Councillor Lambert's ward, but it was previously in Sion ward, and it's an estate that is very much in need of regeneration. But it was such a big deal for us, and is, and you know, from what Councillor Bruce has said, in terms of the timescale involved, you'll see what a big undertaking it is. And at the time, we hadn't done any wholesale estate regeneration like this. And there were so many factors involved, the need to get it right in terms of how we're going to house the people living there currently, what's our offer to them as their housing provider in terms of both the tenants but also leaseholders living on that estate. Massively complicated arrangements, and of course we the timing, everything matters, and there's things like compulsory purchase orders that have to be taken into account as well. So really big undertaking, but we went into, and of course passed by the resident. New things arising on that estate, a really good offer, both in terms of what's going to be built and regenerated on that estate, and also the offer for residents for new homes that they can move into coming soon. So I just want to say well done, still a long way to go. And like Lily, I hope this is the first of many, because we do know that there are other areas that need as well.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Leader. I've had quite a long history with this thing, that being I live pretty well across the road from it, and it's always been a not very nice development, let's put it that way. It was very impressive during the consultation that went on early in this thing, that it has clearly been done very thoroughly. And people were very excited about the change. Then there was a change of boundaries, and I one that Charlton has probably the lowest time of this thing, where people were excited about them, but there was also a lot of anxiety about how it was going to work through. Between us and Tom's team and Sue's, we've pulled it to a place where people are back being mostly exciting, and it's very good. It'll be very good for the people, and it'll also be very good for the ward and for the area, because it's you know, the back of Charlton House is not particularly attractive, and so the people in Albany Road are pretty excited about it too, because their road will be improved. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Bruce, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, just to quickly say thank you very much for the comments, and I'm pleased that we're all in agreement about how important and exciting this is. Hopefully, as others have said, this is the first of many. Other residents across the borough may be thinking, well, what about us? You know, it's all well and good for those people living there, but what about us? And we will continue to review and look at other areas and see what we can do. We are committed to this approach, and we will do what we can within the budgets that we have. So yeah, very looking forward to this coming through, and hopefully everyone's in agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Okay, the recommendations for this are on page 481 to 1 to 10. And can I also ask Cabinet to note the confidential appendix at item 16 on this? Can I see all those in favour? That is mostly. Thank you very much. Right, we now move on to agenda item 11, which is a petition relating to. Can I welcome back Sam Hearn? Welcome back to the chamber. As the lead petitioner on this item, I've agreed Mr. Hearn can present his petition. Mr. Hearn, if you'd like to come up and have a seat, you've got 5 minutes to present your case. I will give you a warning at 1 minute, and then we will have a response. There'll be no debate on this. It will just be for noting. So when you're ready, Sam, your 5 minutes start.
I've no idea because of the trains, and my time, I hope, hasn't started. I've no idea about what you're going to see on the screens. So could that be clarified first?
Yeah, so there are two plans now. I've assumed that there was one provided by you and one provided by the officer. So Gary, if you wouldn't mind putting up the first one as agreed. I'm hoping that this is the right one, Sam. Is this one that you want to talk to?
Oh God, you got the wrong slide. Must have sent you the wrong one.
Did you send the wrong one?
Yeah.
Should we put up the officer one instead?
Let's have a look at the officer, see if that does what I want.
Do you want to put up the other one, Gary? Are you able to zoom into that a little bit? No. It'll be visible for those at
Can
home.
you zoom in anymore or not?
No, I don't think he will be able to. Oh, let's have a look. Oh, maybe. Yeah, people at home will be able to see it. So, is that okay, Sam?
I think put my original slide on. It's simpler for people to see. Thank you.
Okay. Should be able to zoom in on that.
Shall I start running?
Yep, your 5 minutes start when you start speaking.
I'd like to first disclose that I live Road and Park Road, which is where the barrier is. The full wording of the petition is set out, and you already have it, and you can see the reasons behind the main request, which is for the council to remove the diagonal barrier that's been erected across the junction of Staveley Road and Park Road. I'm not going to talk about the second half of the petition that relates to renaming Staveley Road. There's a separate council process for renaming streets, and I therefore do not wish to focus on that in this evening. It's interesting to consider the results of the pre-COVID workshop-based survey, which was conducted by Hounslow's traffic officers in 2019. The aim was to identify traffic problems in the South Chiswick area. Over 500 responses were received, but only 4 identified the Staveley Road, Park Road junction as an issue or a problem. And of those, only one had a local postcode. Staveley Road had and has a good safety record. It's important to understand this diagonal barrier in the context of the whole South Chiswick Livable Neighbourhood Scheme as it originally was. The scheme is made up of 7 elements, all of which, apart from the diagonal barrier and the uncontentious school street, are measures designed to control access to the area by drivers who do not live in the area. Because the barrier does not limit physical access to the area, it is logical to conclude that the existence of the barrier will have little overall impact on the area's air quality. The barrier may determine which streets vehicles drive down, but not how many vehicles enter the area. The quantity of CO2, diesel, particulates, etc. will therefore not be reduced by the existence of a barrier in the middle. And if you've got my diagram, you see the barrier is right in the middle of that diagram. It's not on the fringes of the area, which is where the access controls are. I'm very sorry you haven't got the best slide, but I'll forward it on to you. The conclusion that it's not affecting the overall air quality is consistent with published research carried out by TfL on low traffic neighbourhoods all across London. That's publicly available. Hounslow did not install any air quality equipment in the area before it implemented the temporary, now permanent barrier. 15 low-tech diffusion tubes were installed in the area last year, and I assume we hear the results later this week. But they can only give us some idea of the current level of air pollution and not how it has changed. The nearest air quality measuring station is a mile away on the other side of the A4 on Chiswick High Road. The traffic volume measurements that have been made show that the overall level of traffic has reduced because of the access restrictions. That is to say, nothing to do with the diagonal barrier. And there's been a significant increase in the proportion of traffic travelling along Burlington Lane as opposed to Staveley Road. Burlington Lane is the adjoining road to Staveley Road, which you may not be able to see from this map. Staveley Road and Burlington Lane are similar in character. Both are residential areas dominated by houses with front gardens, driveways leading onto pavements with wide tree-lined grass verges. The difference is at Burlington Lane, we find Chiswick train station, and every work day, commuters, including pupils heading to and from Chiswick School, pour in and out of this station. Because of the diagonal barrier on Staveley Road, they experience worse air quality than they would if the barrier was removed. It is argued that the barrier encourages active travel, which we all agree with, that should be encouraged, because cyclists apparently now will feel safer on Staveley Road because there's less traffic. And there is indeed some mixed anecdotal evidence to support this. However, a significant proportion of the reduction in traffic on Staveley Road is due to the access restrictions. Will I be permitted to go on? I'm sorry, I won't be able to make my points. So here we have a barrier, which in 2019, only one local person thought was a problem. A barrier which has had no measurable overall impact on air quality, a barrier which has not led to more active travel. There is no research supporting this at all. In fact, the research shows nothing. A barrier whose only obvious effect is to divert traffic onto another heavily used residential street, Burlington Lane, that contains a busy commuter station, a doctor's surgery, a dental practice, a vet, and residential housing for military veterans. I realise you might have questions because you probably are not very familiar with this area, so I'm more than happy to ask any questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry. Thank you, Sam. So there isn't the opportunity in the petition scheme for questions. However, we have got a response. Now, I note, Sam, you said around the separate petition on the street naming, an action from Borough Council at the last Borough Council was to for officers to do some more work and advise the lead member, the relevant lead member. The lead member does have a response, so my proposal here is that Councillor Lambert starts on that part of the petition, and then Councillor Dunn moves to the part that you've just talked about. So, Councillor Lambert, can I hand over to you first?
Yes, well, I think we thought that there's a good case for starting a Queen Elizabeth II road somewhere, but I think the argument for making it Staveley Road or Staveley Avenue is inappropriate. It's rather a small road in it's. I know it very well, and it's not exactly Chiswick High Road, which I think something like that would be more appropriate for Queen Elizabeth II. I think we should look at that, and we will. But for now, I will be against that idea.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Dunn on the second part of the petition.
Thank you, Sam, for coming and presenting here today. So I have looked into the points you raise in your petition, and I have come to a conclusion on that. So the South Chiswick Livable Neighbourhood project, as you mentioned, was initially granted funding through Transport for London's Livable Neighbourhood programme in early 2019, so predating the pandemic. The initial bid to TfL included exploring options for a low traffic neighbourhood approach, which now many people are more familiar with. This would look to reduce the speed and volume of traffic using residential streets to bypass main roads such as the A4, A205 and A316, which are all visible on the map shown there. In 2020, the council brought forward a number of schemes on an experimental basis as part of the urgent response to the COVID-19 crisis. The restriction that you've described on Staveley Road was designed to reduce the volume of traffic travelling through this residential street as a cut through to the A4. Motorists can continue their journeys through the A4 and A316 via Burlington Lane and Sutton Court Road. We have collected data from the trial period, which shows that the barrier has reduced traffic flows by approximately 4,000 vehicles per week, which does therefore meet the scheme's principal objective. There have been 2 reviews of the experimental schemes, and following those, the council took the decision in August 2021 to make the trial restrictions on Staveley Road permanent, and construction of the permanent measure was completed early last year. So as stated, the primary purpose of the low traffic neighbourhood approach was to prevent through traffic and to remove non-residential traffic from the area. Access to the A4 and A316 are available to general traffic from Sutton Court Road and Burlington Lane. And in conclusion, the council's position is that there is no rational case for removal of the permanent traffic restriction at Staveley Road.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Can I ask Cabinet, please, to note that those responses? Noted. Thank you very much. And thank you, Sam, for coming in this evening. Okay, we now move on to item 12. I've not had any referrals from other committees. I've also not been notified of any urgent business. Can I ask Cabinet to agree the confidential minutes at item 15? Agreed. Thank you very much. No other items that I consider urgent. The date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 28th of March from 7 p.m. Can I thank those that have tuned in and those that have come in this evening? I hope you got something out of it. And thank you to colleagues around the table. Wishing you a very good night.